All right. Hey guys, BD Knight here. I have Taylor Ackern here with me as we're going to be going over the various Superman animations over the years with Superman Day just around the corner.
Hi guys.
And for you, Taylor, you're sorry, what?
Just saying hi. Okay.
Ah, there we go. Some reason I get the audio is a little bit and a little wonky. I wasn't sure what you were saying for a minute there.
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah, I say that's better. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Now, so you have been a cosplayer for Superman for many years now, right?
Yes. Yeah. Going on about 10 years now.
Jeez, 10 years. And recently you gotten pretty much the newest movie suit just that's right behind you pretty much, right?
Yep. That's the one that is signed by James Gunn. And it's in a nice, pretty case that my dad and I built for it. So we spent Christmas break together and kind of added a new meaning to the legacy title that they had at first. Was like he got to help me put together my very first suit and then got to help me build the case to hold the newest one that's the most valuable one. So it was a good time.
Nice. I mean that's probably the best best experience anyone ever get at a convention just to get signed by James Gunn himself.
Yeah, Hollywood moment. Like if it wasn't for my friend Julian getting the pictures that he did, he was right there in the crowd next to me. But yeah, I don't know how else I would have been able to remember it. It was amazing.
Yeah. So you've been a Superman fan pretty much all your life, right?
Like since I could walk, yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing how that I think there's now two Superman days because I know there's one coming up this Friday, and then I want to say there's another Superman day, sort of. I think by mid-June.
I know there's a Superman celebration in Metropolis, in Illinois. I'll be at that one for a little bit of the weekend, but I'm really hoping they just announced Dean Cain as one of the guests there, and it's about a month before the premiere of the movie. So I'm really hoping that there's a sneak surprise of if James Gunn shows up, awesome. If not, and it's just someone else from the movie shows up, that'd be even better. But yeah, for the year and summer of Superman and being in Metropolis, Illinois for the Superman celebration in mid-June, that'd be a big opportunity for them to waste.
No, I agree. They should definitely get James Gunn or at least one of the actors involved in the movie to appear.
Right? But yeah, this Friday, I'm very excited to see what else is going on.
Yeah, because supposedly we're gonna be getting a brand new trailer very soon.
And like, if not this Friday, I know it's going to be sooner rather than later. Um, my friend Julian that I mentioned, he is going to the Warner Bros. Lot in California to go see the special screening of the Superman movie, like Superman the movie with Chris Reeve. So
Nice.
he'll get to go and get all those goodies, and I'll get to see kind of through his eyes what all that's like.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'd be good to see. Because I'm really hoping that with James Gunn's direction, that this movie it can really put DC back on the map.
Like they've got a lot riding on it with Supergirl and all everything else that they're in production with now. Like it'd be a shame for it to not hit the way that it should, because it should be a really good movie. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot that they have gotten right so far that I'm hoping translates the way that they want it to.
I agree. Because I mean, I know we got to see the little sneak peek of Lobo, so to speak, but it looks pretty good so far.
Yeah, I'm still unsure if that's real or not. It almost looks like AI.
Yeah, with these days, you never know with all that. But now I guess to look back on the Superman cartoons, because I'm always amazed, like how, I guess in general, every decade there's something to be released on Serban, more or less. Whether
Yep, they keep up with the generations, kind of decade by decade. There's always a new interpretation or just something new for the audience to have for that character.
Yeah, especially for the live action, whether you go with Dean Cain or with Tom Welling Smallville, Tyler Hoechlin's between Supergirl and Superman Lois.
Mhm.
I guess
I'm a big fan of the '90s Lois and Clark. Dean Cain was the first Superman actor that I got to meet in person at a con. I was 17, wearing my Doomsday Superman suit, and he saw me all shredded up and just went, what happened to you?" And I joked that I didn't put the dishes in like Lois asked, and he got a good kick out of that.
yeah, no, it's that's just amazing, and especially how you went with that shredded suit even back then.
But yeah, you can't let go of your first one. Even if you got to change it into something else, the first suit always means something sentimental.
Agreed.
So I really would like to do the My Adventures with Superman suit from the newest animation. I think that one hit a very good mark. Like in everything from how Clark is as a character in that show to how they introduce the suit, and then Martha has to kind of egg him on and be like, let's add some trunks on it. It was very fun playing on things.
No, I agree. I like that little touch they did. Yeah, that's why to me, when I look at Superman's animated history, that and the other two animated shows stuck out to me the most, with the '90s animated series and the Fleischer cartoons from the 1940s.
I just recently went back and watched the Fleischer cartoons, and they're still amazing. Like for the time, I don't know how they produced that, but yeah, it's from the little, even just being little one-off stories. Like they still have a lot of heart. They still have a lot of character. They showcase a lot of what he can do.
I agree. Yeah, and I like that it's simple. Like there's a mad scientist or some group of criminals doing something bad, and Superman has to go there and stop them. And he gets tested with certain things. Like I always remember that shot where he's protecting Lois from the flow of lava.
Right? Or just even like weird circumstances that happen, like the Arctic monster, where it's just they bring out a dinosaur from the Arctic, something happens and it thaws out, and then it's doing a rampage across the city, and he has to go and stop it and save Lois from it. Which I did notice it's always kind of particular that Lois is right in the middle of every single danger. She finds her way to be the damsel in distress, no matter what, almost.
Yeah, I mean, this that show definitely is a bit dated in certain aspects of Lois being the damsel, even though she's the one looking for trouble. But I mean, that's the life of a reporter.
Yeah, it plays very well to her character, and I think other interpretations of that held true as it went on. Like in the '90s animated series, they kind of held on to that a little bit too. They let the story play out and didn't put her in as much danger, but she definitely still had her moments where she had to be rescued. She was somehow, some way, front and center in the middle of all of it going on.
Agreed. Yeah, it's funny how they always do that, where Lois always gets in trouble and Superman is always there to see.
Mhm. I joked with
Yeah,
my wife that that's how we met.
yeah, and that's one thing I'll say about for with the '90s Superman. It's a very modern take on the character, at least for the '90s, anyway.
It was, and one thing that I don't think a lot of people paid or give it credit for is like, yeah, he's still Superman, he's still the Boy Scout, but he's not an absolute goody two shoes all the way through. You see him get angry, you see him get frustrated, you see him deal with problems as still a person would. And like, yeah, he's still Superman, but it it almost lets him have a little bit more leeway with dealing with things emotionally, whereas some media can only portray him as that good 100% can't do anything wrong ever kind of person. So the '90s gave him a lot more character depth, in my opinion, and I appreciated it for that.
Yeah, and even though this Serban might get more personal, might get has some and stuff. He's still a good person. He still tries to do the right thing.
Yeah, and like though even at a personal cost, he will still make that call. But it's also the fact of like when Marla, I think her name is, gets out of the Phantom Zone, and for him, it's just yeah, it's another Kryptonian. Of course, I'm going to let her out and she served her time. Why wouldn't I? The rest of the world sees it, and Lex frames it as, "Oh no, they're going to repopulate and make a Kryptonian army." Ah, but for him, it's just no. She's a person from my place. She's one of my people. I'm going to defend her while I can from what I can, and let her live that life.
Yeah,
And then that eventually does bite him in the end of it and turn sour. But he's still willing to make that call first and be wrong about it later.
I agree. It can be troublesome because he's the last of his own kind. I mean, I remember like when I think like in the Superman Batman Apocalypse movie when he discovers Supergirl, he's just so excited that he's willing to share with her everything, be her protector.
And like even with Batman and other voices in his ear saying, "Are you sure about this?" It could mean savior or destructor, and everyone giving him that secondhand perspective of it. He's still willing to say, "No, they deserve a chance."
Yeah, because as he says, like he doesn't look for the bad in everyone.
Mm-hmm. Except Luther, which that's deserved.
Yeah, I mean that that bridge has been burned for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it really shows that how Superman is in some ways more of a loner than Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Like
it's one.
that's a superpower I think is despite being alone so much and so often and in so many ways, he still has the humanity to help.
Yeah, I.
Like whereas Batman's superpower is really honestly being rich and being good at karate. Superman's is humanity.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Batman chooses to be a loner. Superman doesn't really have that much of a choice.
Mm-hmm. He just is, but chooses to still help.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one thing I guess to look at with all three of these shows is that he does go along with being Clark Kent the reporter among everyone, but he always keeps most people at a distance.
Yeah, which he has to, but it is still nice when you get to see the moments of the people that he does bring in. Like the '90s show still gave him and Jimmy a lot of good screen time together that I think deserved it, and especially in My Adventures with Superman, making them roommates right off the bat. I absolutely loved that dynamic.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's so I think it's probably better when they're best friends, but I like the fact that even with that show, he was trying to keep his secret away from Lois and Jimmy. But when, I mean, for one, Jimmy already figured out for who knows how long.
Yeah. And he's like, the first day you broke the doorknob and crumpled the metal and just said that it had a loose screw. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
yeah. I mean, it's just funny because I just like the fact that Clark he just wants to be a regular guy and he doesn't want to have all the responsibility and the powers. He didn't ask for it; it just happened.
Mhm.
But
And it's also really fun where like some variations don't immediately show him knowing his full heritage right off the bat. Like with My Adventures, like you got to see him explore what being Kryptonian was and what Krypton was and what side of what is he on with all of that, and thinking that Jor-El was more or less the bad guy at first, but they made it interesting with the language barriers and the history barriers of him only getting flashes and glimpses of things that would make you believe that yeah, Krypton was bad and they were out to be an empire and take over as many worlds as they could. But I'm excited to see.
Hello, are you still there? Sorry, I think you cut off for a second there. What was the last part you were saying?
I'm excited to see how in the new season of My Adventures with Superman, how they explore his Kryptonian heritage a little bit more and connect him back to all that.
Yeah, no, I agree definitely, and because I feel like they took aspects of what Zack Snyder was trying to do with Man of Steel, but I feel like it worked better in my opinion.
Like they almost made it or took that road back to the comics in a way, where they played into the longer histories of what everything could be. Where I love Man of Steel, but that almost feels more like an Elseworlds movie now, or like an absolute Superman kind of universe.
Yeah, pretty much. It does give out that vibe, and I want to
Just
say like,
the ways to explore it.
sorry, what?
Just how the new shows can explore more creative ways to tell that story.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, because I like the fact that it made it seem like Krypton was like invaders when normally they're not supposed to be. I think the only other version where they went with that was in Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm. Which even in that, they just said that they were old colonial outposts and that they were exploring and trying to reach out to see if there was other life or other habitable worlds.
Yeah, I think that was the case. Yeah, though I say the one because I mean I didn't mind Man of Steel much. Just maybe if it was a bit had a little more color and yeah, I think just a little more color. Henry to
It
have a
had
bit
the
more.
color, it just didn't need the filters. The color
Yeah,
was there, the filters muted it down.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. Then less filters and maybe Henry to be a little more positive, just because like it's Superman. Like
It is. Or my whole thing was give him more dialogue, give him more scenes when he's talking with other people as Superman, not being interrogated by them or having to fight them, but just being able to talk to them as Superman. Like the best 10 seconds of that whole movie, in my opinion, is when he's on the tarmac talking to Lois and the scientists and the pilots and everyone all there at once, and he's saying, if we can make the two drives collide with one another, it'll create a singularity and theoretically draw them back in. Like that was just Superman talking to other people. Like if he had had more scenes as that, I'd like that's what Chris had was Chris as Superman talked to every single person he interacted with more than just a hey, you okay? Like Henry makes a save and says, hey, are you okay? But when that's all we get from that interaction, it doesn't give a lot to go off of. So the newer versions get to see where older ones fell short in some aspects and make up for that.
yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's just it seems like for Zack Snyder he wanted to really bring in the godlike aspect of Superman.
Which he, in a way, he is. Like he carries that weight of the world on his shoulders, and like they show the psychology of Superman in that way. But there's more sides to it than that. And when that's all you focus on, the rest of the media gets kind of lost.
I agree. Oh, it looks like we got a question. Angel of Death. Yeah, Superman's a topic, but we're talking about specifically mostly the Superman cartoons in the past, like mostly with between My Adventures with Superman, STS, and the Fleischer cartoons.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, my adventures with Superman really picked up the ball where Man of Steel dropped it and is carrying it a lot further.
Yeah,
So
without a
the fact
doubt.
that they've got more time and more seasons to come out with, I think they're going to more or less not try to fix what that world didn't do, but just show of what that world could have been if it was done a little bit better.
Yeah, because one other thing I'll say about for with My Adventures of Superman is that take on Clark. He is so like so positive despite everything that's happened to him. Like he's so compassionate. So I mean, he.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my friends said that he's the sweetest guy. Like that, it was like the most relatable Superman that he's ever seen. And this friend of mine, he's not even a major fan of the character.
But yeah, it was just a good show.
Yeah, and I do like the anime style, and even with how the villains, a lot of them just get their powers through the Kryptonian technology.
Mm-hmm. Like in Smallville, set it up a certain way with the meteor freaks week by week, but having it still be an aspect of it still is tied to Clark and to Superman and to the Kryptonians in a way makes it a really fun storyline to play back and forth on.
Definitely. Let's see.
Like the animated series did that a lot too. Of they brought in people that were somehow, some way related to the story and Krypton and Clark's adventures with everything, but they also had a lot that focused on Lex. And I'm excited to see where the new season goes with Lex now that he's actually confirmed to be the Lex that we know as the villain.
Yeah,
Like him working for Argus is a really interesting story plot.
they did a good job with that, and I would say for with the on the villain front, I do like the fact that on the '90s show that we got to see so many iconic villains that
Yeah,
never had
Live
any.
Wire doesn't get a lot of love that she should. Like
Yeah,
the newer shows do, but like in all the other media, she's a good villain. She could really be a powerhouse, or even if it's just a little, like 5 minute save in a movie, yeah, it'd still be a really nice cameo.
yeah. I mean, at least she got to be in the. Besides My Adventures of Superman, I think she also appeared in Supergirl as well.
She did, yeah.
Yeah, not the biggest role, mind you, but at least it's
No,
something.
there's a lot of villains that could be really interesting to the stories, but still, even if they're just a stepping stone to the bigger villains, they can help tell a fun aspect of the history.
Yep. Let's see. We got another comment. Let's see. But yeah, I agree. I agree with the Angel Death. Sometimes the whole Jesus analogy to Superman it can be a bit, a little bit much. Sometimes, even though like there, you can. It's hard to ignore some of the similarities.
Yeah, and I think that's almost what Siegel and Schuster piggybacked off of was that whole story of Jesus and the resurrection and everything that they could have. They didn't plan out the death of Superman way back then, but um, just being the savior from another world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like they it's I can't say that they did draw from it, but I see the similarities where I can definitely see why they would. It's arguably the biggest story ever told would be Jesus. So, like, if they can piggyback off of that and put it into the comic book world of someone who does good no matter what, who helps no matter what, then that would spread just as well, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
as a creator aspect, like I can definitely see the similarities and why they would choose to go down that route. I'm glad
Uh,
I didn't leave them bald. Oh, I'm so glad they didn't leave them bald.
oh yeah, I remember when I think with that early draft of that, but actually, Angel does make a correction, and he's right. Actually, there's more of a Moses analogy, and that's probably more accurate with Moses. With at least for with the origin, so to speak.
I can see that too. Yeah. But yeah, and even with James Gunn's new chapter of the DCU of Chapter One being gods and monsters, like Superman falls into that god category as well. Like he said that in the movie, he's trying to make him more of just a person rather than a god, but he's still Superman. The weight of the world is literally just always on his shoulders, and it's nice to see where some interpretations take a break from that and still just let him be Clark, like the animated series in the '90s did really well with that. They didn't make him out to be some godlike figure, but he was just a guy trying to do the right thing.
Yeah,
And
same.
he still lived his life as Clark and enjoyed his life as Clark. And I think that that's the key aspect of the character is there is the duality of you have both the the all powerful savior and just the everyday sweetheart kind of guy who just tries to help everyone that he can.
Yeah, because that show had one of my favorite episodes with the late Mr. Kent when Clark said that that I am Clark. I need to be Clark. I go crazy if I had to be Superman all the time.
Yep. So like
Because
yeah, for the character it's a necessity.
yeah, and even for with my adventures, yeah, like he doesn't do the whole God concept either. He just wants to help out now and then, and I like that he's more of a pacifist where he wants to resolve things without violence, unless there's no other way.
Yes. Like if it comes that way, he will win. But yeah, it's not the preferred.
Let's see, and see, we got another comment. Let's see, I just love how sincere my Adventure Superman was. The villains were definitely a mixed bag. Mixius and Bragg, I thought, were by far the best. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Brainiac in that show was definitely the most creepiest version I think I've ever seen. I didn't think that was possible.
Like that and how they portray Parasite getting to be to the level of like kaiju Godzilla type fight, but seeing how Superman was still able to handle that at his most powerful versus Superman being weakened to almost nothing. Like and it really plays into like Lois not just being a damsel anymore, but her and Jimmy still kind of taking charge on the new front and helping alongside the fight. Like
Yeah,
everything comes together in just the best ways that they really could.
yeah, just I found Parasite to be very annoying, just because like he's a very egotistical man child that just wants to showcase that that he can be top dog no matter who else is there.
Yeah, but if those people exist,
Yes, true. They do exist in real life. So
so but yeah, the simpleness of how that final blow lands and Clark just X-rays through him and grabs him through that whole husk. And at the end, he's just like, "Yes, you haven't read the papers. I'm Superman." It was absolutely, and yeah, Angel of Death had the right word for it. It was sincere when she said, "I know that you want to kill me, but I just want to help you
yeah,
and at least stop you for a second to see the damage you're causing to everyone else that you probably didn't mean to harm."
yeah, and I agree. Yeah, I agree because that was a good first season with everything where Clark was he had such doubt believing that he was just a weapon, but
Yep,
thankfully with because of Lois and Jimmy when they had the city turn off their power so that way Parasite wouldn't get any more, he had more confidence to stop him for good.
yep. And like, it's one thing I never really imagined was having super hearing. He can hear every little commentary happening while he's fighting these villains. He can hear the people saying, "Ooh, I don't think he's going to make it." "Oh yeah, no, he's totally trashed. He's gone." And everyone just counting him out all the way through every second of those fights. He could hear all of that. And that was the first time that the show's really let us in on that. That's a fact that yeah, he knows what we're saying. And when that table starts to turn and people start to speak positively about him and believe in him again, that that's where the tide turns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I mean, I guess he's not turning that on because he already has self-doubt already. So like he probably figures what the others are going to say at the moment, so he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah. I'm
But I
sorry.
think but I think that's why I appreciate the Fleischer cartoons just for how it's just pure and simple, like where nothing too complicated or dramatic,
Like
just a
they were able
guy.
to tie everything up in like one little episode segments. So it was a nice, short, sweet story every time. And like the way that they used or showed him using his powers was really interesting for the time as well. Like seeing his X-ray vision when his eyes, it almost looked like his eyes rolling back of his head, and then his X-ray vision comes out when he's seeing through the robot to see Lois in the jewelry bot. like it was just an interesting depiction of the powers being used, whereas the newer iterations can't almost see that anything changes on his face. Like my
Yeah.
adventures goes back to it a little bit with his eyes kind of going a little bit bluer to see through things. But yeah, Fleischer's definitely hit a good spot to start off with.
Yeah, and that's old school animation. Like, that's still timeless. I don't care what anyone else says.
Like yeah, it beats almost everything that's coming out today.
Yeah, and it's because of that show that we have Batman the anime series to begin with, as it was one of the
Yep.
inspirations.
Yeah, like my 5-year-old still prefers to watch the older cartoons rather than the newer ones that are all just 3D characters modeled into everything. Like the older hand drawn stuff, just even with younger audiences now, still hits a lot harder.
Wow,
Like him
yeah,
and I were watching the Fleischer cartoons last week, and he was just loving them every second of them.
there you go.
Especially for a 5-year-old's attention span, having it be all tied up into one episode stories bit by bit, that helps a lot.
Yeah, no, it's great. Though it's interesting that for with the old school Superman, he didn't talk too much when he was in costume.
Not really. Like he was there, he got the job done, and then he disappeared and let Clark do the talking when Clark came back, which I can't understand. Of like it keeps the dualities and the separation very potent between the two,
Yeah,
which they probably wanted that very distinctive separation for that character. Then,
yeah. So I feel like maybe he should be called the Man of Action instead of the Man of Steel.
right? But
Let's see.
I almost feel like the newer adaptations of Clark shouldn't talk as much. Like let Clark be the quiet kind of loner, and let Superman be the one who's talkative and friends with everybody. Because like Superman, that's what the character is he's everybody's friend. Whether you want him to be or not, he's your friend. He cares for you, and he will help you if you need it.
Yeah, because I mean, the way I see it, he's like the best big brother anyone could ever ask for, really.
Right? Yeah, that's a really good way to say it.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah, I almost prefer Clark to be the quieter one and to just go to work, go home, mind his business, and have everyone think that like that's their depiction of him. Because like we've all had that one coworker who doesn't talk much, who just shows up on time, goes home on time, gets the work done, never chats. Like we all know people like that; they exist. So
yep,
it's absolutely feasible that Clark would just be a kind of socially awkward person in that sense. Whereas Superman's the one who's out and about, talking to everyone, making friends with everyone, trying to be that smiling, friendly face that people can trust. And that's how you build that trust.
yeah, and I agree with you, Angel of Death. Where with my adventures show that with Kryptonite there was a very creative visual effect when it came to Superman being infected. It was like it was turning
Yes.
to crystal or something.
Yeah. It starting to grow out of him was really, really interesting.
Yeah, because it makes me think. I think there was something from All Star Superman when there's like kryptonite in a couple of astronauts like bloodstream, where I guess the only way for them to be safe was to stay in the Phantom Zone. Otherwise, they would turn into pure kryptonite or something.
You're right. Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's really fascinating visually to see that on screen play out.
Yeah, because it's always because usually whenever we get the Green Rock, he just grunts and moans like his agonizing pain. I think there's very few depictions where you see the effects on him. Because I want to say in Smallville they added a little something when it came to Kryptonite. Like I think just some green veins or something or green
But
lines.
yeah, the more it was around him, the more it would show like glowing through his body and his blood.
Yeah.
Which I guess they just turned that dial up to 11 with my adventures theory of just having to start growing in him and out of him. It's like the world's worst kidney stones, but everywhere.
Yeah, basically. I mean, heck, even for the classic Superman films, Krypton was basically all about crystals.
Right?
So you could say like Kryptonians are just sentient crystals, just given human form.
I'm really excited to see in the newer adaptation more of the fortress. Because watching the old '90s show, I absolutely love that fortress where he has to dive down under the water and then it pops back up into the little landing area under the cave. And like the way that they show it all, like if they can properly give him like the zoo that he has, and show that yeah, he has more or less a zoo for the other animals that are the last of their kind, and he helps take care of them too. Like show Superman, he's got to be the most alien he can be and the most human he can be, and it's a very careful line between them. But
Mm.
a lot of the shows do that very well and serve that justice to him.
Yeah, that's another good point I'll give for with the that that Superman show where he made the fortress by hand, pretty much. It wasn't like from Krypton exactly. You still there?
There we go. You pop back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I liked how for with the fortress in the '90s show, it was something that Superman made from scratch, so to speak.
Right. Like even the fortress and my adventures was uh, I liked it, but there's still certain aspects that are just a miss to me. They didn't hit at all. And like I loved like you mentioned All Star Superman, like have it be technologically advanced.
Hmm. I think you cut off again.
See more of that fortress, and like from what they've teased, what crypto destroys in the fortress.
Oh yes, right. Sorry, you cut off for a bit, but I kind of figure what you were talking about because I did like that sneak peek when the crystals just come out of nowhere as soon as like Crypto and Superman were getting close to the fortress. That soon we would see all the crystals come up and everything, and I like that all Kurt has to do is just bark and they just know it's him.
Yeah, like yeah, seeing what else is in that is going to be really exciting. I feel like it's going to be just a bunch of Easter eggs for all the diehard fans out there,
Yeah, I love the All Star Superman influence, especially with the robots he has.
right? Like yeah, like he should and can be depicted as much the scientist that his father was. So the stories that pay homage to that, I appreciate a little bit more. Like his dad was the smartest scientist on Krypton. Like why wouldn't that carry on to him and him take up that mantle?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have had to be a doctorate exactly. Just just learning his people's tech.
Yep. But
And and I do agree with you, Angel of Death, for with the DCAU Superman. It does sucks the fact that Lois never finds out about Clark being Superman, even though she might have been close once or twice.
yeah, like how they played on Batman and Superman finding out each other's was poetic justice through and through. But yeah, had they played into Lois being brought into that would have been really nice.
Yeah. And yes,
I'm
you're
sorry.
right, Angel of Death. It's confirmed that Superboy will be in season 3 of My Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as for who it'll be, I mean, hard to say if it'll be Connor or Connor Kent or future Jonathan. Who can say?
Like I really think we're gonna get the clone story with Lex being the mad scientist in the position he's at now in Argus. Like they're definitely gonna want a Superman of their own, so to speak, and he just comes out a lot younger.
Yeah, because
But
I did see something behind. I think like a at least a drawing aspect of the classic Connor Kent with the jacket with the jacket and everything.
blue top, black pants.
Yeah,
Like the outfit is awesome, spot on. But
yeah,
having the duality of the personalities, like Clark is both alien and human, Superboy is alien and human, but battling it in a different way. His human is Lex, whereas his alien is the goodest of all good. From Superman, you have the most evil scientific mind breeding that as well.
yeah. That's still a bit pretty messed up how they created all that.
Yeah, I, I'm excited to see it because they could go a few different ways, and I've got my theories on it, but I'm just going to enjoy it regardless when it happens.
Yeah. Plus, I think for season three, we'll also get Cyborg Superman
Ooh, that'd be nice.
because we saw like Hank Henshaw in like a couple episodes of the second season.
Yes, and what I loved was like he's depicted the a big thing about hairstyles. His hairstyle is depicted like as perfect Superman hair already. So when the accident happens, he just could be like full on comic accurate. He's got the S curl and everything, just ready to go.
Yep, and I think during season two with the Brannick invasion, his plane got shut down. So we'll see if he got like recovered and just turned into a cyborg either by Argus or something. Let's see, and another comment. I am unbelievably excited for Superman. And I love all the inspirations Gunn is taking. But the one I really could do without is having Eve, Tessmacher, and Otis instead of Mercy Graves.
I would say just give that time. That may be the first couple henchmen that we see, but especially if the DCU takes off and they get to make sequels and keep on going with the story, give it time before Mercy gets in. It's like she's a crucial part of it where Eve is the pretty looker to get into places. Mercy is the deadly mind that can help scheme with Lex.
That is true, yeah. And
Like like
yeah,
Zack Snyder wasted her and wasted Jimmy, and it hurts to watch of just Jimmy get shot and Mercy get blown up without doing anything in that world.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that was going to be Jimmy Olsen, sort of, at least in that movie.
Like undercover CIA agent. Okay, that's a choice.
I mean, if they
Like
don't
that.
want to go with the traditional route, I mean, it's fine. But hey, like you said, Elseworlds.
Yep. It's like yeah, I just no, we've got a multiverse. Just label it properly, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
like Titans really did that, and like the Crisis on Infinite Earths with the DC CW universe, they did that beautifully. Of just label it. It all exists. It's all happening. It's just in a multiverse.
Yeah. On a side note, I didn't mind Titan's take on the Superboy character clone.
Like they did it really well. I wish that we'd gotten to see that Superman fully. Like at least just show him actually teaching Connor how to fly.
Hmm. Yeah, although it's interesting just to see Connor going bald.
I wasn't a fan of that, but like it is comic accurate. They went there, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, he's trying to embrace the Luthor inside of him.
It's like there were a few scenes in that show where Superboy got the shine of being as smart as Lex with the powers of Superman. Uh, like when he's defusing the bomb that's made of super sophisticated tech, and he has to think his way through it, but has to do it in super speed. To I call it like the Rubik's cube of death is what it looked like, where he just had to constantly be in motion, doing it in the 0.2 seconds that he had to figure it out. but he was smart enough from the Lex side of things to be able to do that. Like
Yeah,
that's
no,
why the clone story is my favorite Superboy because it provides such awesome storytelling that it'd be a shame if they didn't do that in My Adventures in season three.
yeah. I mean, unless they're gonna do a future, like a time travel kind of thing, then yeah, I agree. In some ways, I do like Connor more than Jonathan Kent.
I can see that. I I want them both to be able to exist, but to be able to do that, like if you're just now introducing Connor, it's gonna be a while before we get Jonathan.
Yeah, that's why I think I appreciate with Young Justice what they've done, where like the first few seasons we see Connor, and then we just see little baby Johnny.
Right? Like Young Justice deserves more too.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you, Angel of Death, that with that the My Adventures take on Supergirl, that is probably one of the best I think I've seen. I liked her whole warrior persona.
Oh yeah. And the fact that like Brainiac is more or less Zod's AI helping him conquer, and it's just a prelude to the real stuff coming. It provided a lot of interesting takes on just like how it almost wanted me to like go back in time and like whisper in Zach's ear and be like, "Thank Brainiac, Zod's AI."
Yeah,
Like
probably.
it's a beautiful moment that could have been used a lot better, but yeah, no, seeing Supergirl in that situation was one of the best original takes on that character.
Yeah, and I will say this for Angel of Death. I actually didn't. I mean, it's okay. I get where you're coming from, but I don't mind the pairing between with Kara and Jimmy. At least in this show, I think in this show it makes more sense just because she's just trying to be like a regular, trying to figure out how to like not always be the warrior, just because she has a very curiosity mind about when it comes to exploring worlds, and who better than Jimmy?
Like, and it does pay a nice little mirror back to the '90s series where that Tara and Jimmy kind of had their first interactions and fell for each other right off the bat. It was a nice way to mirror that into this new interpretation.
Yeah, I agree because I always thought that, man, yeah, it would be nice if those two went out a couple of times in the '90s show, but sadly, it was just that one time, and then after after that, Kara eventually went out with Brainiac 5.
Yeah,
And
which
did
like
you,
it'd be a fun episode to just show like kind of not even a double date, but just go back and forth between a Clark and Lois date and a Jimmy and Kara date, and then something happens in the city and Clark goes to put out the fire, and then Kara has to go put out the fire, and they're both kind of trying to return without being caught.
yeah, that's one of the few things I like but don't like about the '90s show is that, for one thing, the end. It ends on probably one of the most dramatic and probably one of the best endings where Superman betrayed the Earth because of Darkseid. He does stop him, doesn't kill him, but he was close. But yet still, the damage is already done, where he is now a social pariah to the whole planet.
Yeah, which like that's like a lot of people say that Man of Steel was dark, and I honestly think that Man of Steel just took a lot of themes from the '90s series and showed more or less what Bruce Timm was trying to do, but didn't get to all the way. Like Bruce Timm said that he would have loved to have Superman kill Zod, but that the producers told him he couldn't do that. So instead, they went with the Mara and her Kryptonian general instead, and just kind of changed names.
Yep, yep. They couldn't do. Yeah, they couldn't do that. Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. Like originally for that two-parter ending, that wasn't really supposed to be like the end of the show. That was going to be a season premiere where we would see where the events of that would take place. But unfortunately, Warner DC did not like the idea of a show where Superman is being feared by people all the time.
Yeah, which it would have. like honestly, that could have leaded right into the Justice League cartoon, and they could have just skipped like good Batman chunk altogether. But the Batman animated series, along with the Superman, how they flow into the Justice League series is really really well done. Like
Yeah,
they could have shown the rest of the league around the world watching the Superman showdown go down with Darkseid, then trying to help and remind people, no, 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 he's a good guy, he's one of us, and then helping to restore that hope in him.
yeah, true. There could have been something because I think they were trying to do something where I think at the end of, I think what they were originally to do for the ending was I think trying to set up a Justice League sort of just because, and it makes sense because for most of that show we would see Superman team up with a different hero.
Right? Like we knew they were around, we knew they existed.
Yeah, it's just the group didn't get formed until the actual show started.
Yeah,
And I want to say for that show that took place 2 years, I think after, yeah, 2 years after Superman lost the people's trust.
it's like candidly, if those 2 years passed, then it would just be the 2 years of him trying to do good work to make back up for it.
Yeah, I guess it was just been interesting to see like what could he have done to have regained the people's trust.
Like it, in that sense, it would be a Batman Superman fight with Doomsday of him making that ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, that would actually be a good way to bring in that that take from those movies.
Like had we had a dark side invasion before Doomsday, I think that would have gone better in live action. It's like they were on that route in the animated show and just didn't get to go that far with it. But I think that would have been the next step was bringing Doomsday and have the Death of Superman storyline and show like back then show Superboy and Eradicator and Steel and everyone else out of the woodwork.
Hmm.
And we've already got all the other heroes established in that world, so they would be coming out as well to not only mourn Superman, but also vet and be there for the few steps after that of dealing with all the new Supermen in their reign.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate the anime adaptation of that storyline in those two-parters.
But yeah, I like that was the show that I watched the most as a kid was the '90s Superman.
Yeah, same. Like all of the DCU is my favorite, and you're right, Angel Death. Yeah, because Watchtower Database they do a great job of trying to bring about chronological order for the DCU, but it's a bit too hard to figure out with between all those like 5, 6 shows how they all coordinate. Just because I mean, originally that wasn't even their intent to create a shared superhero universe. It was just doing one at a time, and
Yep,
but I guess after doing Batman and Superman, they figured why not? Let's make one with all of them together.
which logically, yeah, is that next step. Can't blame them.
Yeah, I guess it was probably a bit much when they done all the Batman Beyond where they go into the future, and now it's like they gotta figure out making a show that's somewhat in the past, but not too far in the past to fill in some of the gaps in between.
That's a good way of putting it. Batman Beyond is still set in that same canon, so that they had to still do everything justice up leading to that.
Agreed. And yeah, even doing an entire video on the whole miscoloring of the bat symbol. I mean, no offense to Watchtower Database, it might be a bit excessive, but I mean, heck, it can't. It's very distracting. I would say, seeing that sometimes. But still, yeah. I mean, that's what's I think what's great about with those three shows is that overall you can just take someone like Superman in almost any direction, whether you want to go purely out of the comics or whether it's more the classics from the back then when Superman just started, or late
Like,
or later on.
there's enough material that they can absolutely pull off little one-off saves and one-off little crisis events of big dinosaur attacks or like with a kaiju attacks, and that could be its own separate thing and done and dealt with, and then we move on to the next step, or it could be part of the grand overarching scheme of Lex putting that into play to learn something from it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then yeah, then seeing like all like the more modern takes where Superman has to deal with corrupt businessmen, then dealing with galactic invasions, whether it's Brainiac or Darkseid.
right? Yeah, one thing I love most about the very first issue of Action Comics 1 is one of his first things he does as Superman is finds a corrupt politician, entangles him over power lines, and hangs him from the White House pole until he admits that he'll turn in his conspirators. Like, that's my Superman. And that's my guy. Like, he snatches the car that tries to kidnap Lois, and like he doesn't beat the crap out of the guys in the car, but he's just like, "You're going to use that for evil. You don't get to have that now. Or you're going to launder money and sell weapons to both sides of a war. You're going to tell the truth and out everyone you're working with." Like
Yeah,
that's Superman,
yeah, because yeah, Superman's a nice guy, but that doesn't mean he's going to give you lots of chances.
right?
Yep, and let's see. Personally, of the two DCU Superman voice actors, who would you say you preferred?
Oh, that's
For Yeah, because I do like both because they both do great jobs at voicing the character.
yeah. Like I hear George Newborn or Tim Daly, and I just think Superman. Like if my brain doesn't even register that they're a different voice. Almost, it's just Superman. Um, Newborn had a lot of the bravado, the manliness of the Superman part of it that just sounded right. But Tim Daly has had a little bit more opportunities to shine with it.
Yeah, I think for me, I do like both, but I'm gonna have to say Daily because I guess because like he first did it in Superman, and I don't know. I guess I like how edgy he can sound. I like how suave he can be as Clark.
Yeah,
So it's like that little rivalry that Clark and Lois would have on the job.
yes, and yeah, Tim Daly voiced Public Enemies. That's one of my all-time favorite animated movies of Kryptonite meteor coming and Lex is president and turns the public opinion against Superman. That whole storyline, the end speech where he's got Lex's power suit in his grips and rips the battery out, and he's like, "That's my best friend," and you just killed him. Like that line just goes absolutely as hard as it could.
I know
Again,
it. Yeah, that's why I feel like for Dawn of Justice, instead of Doomsday, Metallo as the last bad guy.
oh, that'd be good. Yeah, that would be good.
And that could have been a great opportunity to bring in like that guy in the wheelchair. He could have been like, he could have like somewhat survived, but became like a cyborg with a Kryptonian heart.
Right? Or like when my first time in theater seeing that movie, when Bruce is trying to pull the building off of him, he's like, "What's your name, Wally?" They call you Wally. I was like, wait. Do we get robotic legs, Flash? Is this what it's going to be? What? Yeah, I was. Wheels were turning 1,000 miles a minute then, and they just went in a completely different direction and used him as a martyr instead. But he absolutely could have been a good John Corbin, and they could have brought in that storyline of even him being one of Lex's bodyguards who was injured in the explosion at the Capitol and got half torn away. Like that could have been reason for him to rebuild him back as the Kryptonite cyborg.
Yeah, and you could have Superman still make the sacrifice, just that he stops Metallo. He just gets like an overdose of Kryptonian radiation from Metallo, so he would still die possibly.
Right? And like that would leave the opportunity for like even if he stops Metallo himself, or if you let Batman kind of take over, and Batman has to stop the villain without killing the villain and redeem himself in that way, he would get that chance.
True. And yeah, the Superman debut episode in the Batman: The Brave and the Bold show was pretty good too, because you see like all the classic Superman stuff, and even adding in a little bit of the Dark Knight Returns, when Superman just going a bit crazy with the red kryptonite.
Yep.
Because that was always fun to see that being adapted, especially for how Batman and Superman switched costumes.
Like if we do eventually get to see like a Super Sons kind of thing in live action, or even in animation, the way that they did the Super Sons movie of like have John nerd out about Batman the way that the Robins nerded out about Superman. Like that dynamic is just too golden to not use.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish they used in Superman and Lois, at least, like maybe at least just to bring in a teenage Damian Wayne to visit the Kents.
It that would have made everything so much better. Even if for an episode, a cameo, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, a name drop, something.
Yeah, because that's one storyline that actually that and another storyline I would like to see adapted in live action in some way is Superman and Lois going on a double date with Batman and Catwoman.
Oh yes, I really hope that we get that in the new DCU.
Yeah, because I just love that little comic of how they go on a double date, and then when they go to music park, they they all switch costumes.
Yes.
It's just funny seeing Batman wearing glasses, a grim looking Superman, and even like where Lois and Selena switch costumes.
Oh yeah. Like just the comic panel, them handing the suits over the stall. It's like it means hope. It means a bat.
And they're both just like, okay.
Like Dean says, an eye for comedy that like you wouldn't have to write in a whole lot more than that. Just adapt that as it is. It's perfect.
Agreed. Let's see. For as many things as STAS nailed, the one thing I constantly felt they missed the mark on was Jimmy Olsen. Most times he was just a background character. Yeah,
They
I
could
mean,
have given him a bigger spotlight in that show. They really could have.
yeah, I mean, at least he did have a few episodes where he had some moments to shine, like besides Superman's pal episode, that is.
Like eventually he does get the watch, but like that could have been done a lot sooner than have him being like. Whereas the Fleischer cartoons had Lois be the damsel in distress. Make that Jimmy. Make Jimmy just always getting in trouble, always going off and doing something to where he has to use the watch.
Yeah, that's why I appreciated with My Adventures of Superman, where Jimmy is more involved. He knows a secret, and even provides some useful and is actually very helpful with some of the cases.
Right? Like yeah. I feel like the newer adaptations get a lot right that other shows have missed out on doing.
Yeah. And oh boy, to see Emperor Joker story arc being adapted into live action, that would be very dark and twisted.
Like, isn't Zack's universe done?
Yeah, no, but I mean, to imagine any Joker having the powers of a god to rewrite reality and stuff like Mixius Spitlick, that would be scary.
Absolutely. Like that would be a full on. Like that could be a good Justice League villain. Like for a full ensemble cast movie, have it be God level Joker. Like he's still got an end goal of he doesn't want to kill everyone in the world. He just wants to play the biggest joke on them.
Yeah, because I remember, I think in that Brave and the Bold cartoon when they did Emperor Joker, when he had Mixie's powers, he just kept killing Batman over and over again in different ways.
Like, yeah. Whereas someone like Darkseid just wants to kill everything and rule everything. Someone like Joker still enjoys his private life. They're like, yeah, he's
Yeah,
still going to do some dark and twisted stuff, but it's going to be a lot more personal.
yeah, not to mention the whole like rewind and do it again.
Like, ooh, if Jensen Ackles gets to play Batman and gets to essentially redo that supernatural episode of him just dying over and over, that'd be a fun joke. I can see that.
Yeah, that'd be a neat progression. Yeah, seems like they're narrowing down for actors for the new Batman, so we'll see.
It's getting close. Is it like Brandon Skelnar is one of them? Probably butchered that name, but
Yeah, I think that's it.
like the little bit I have seen of him, he wants to do a more comic accurate Bruce Wayne, which I'm all down for. But I would also love if Alan Ritchson is not Batman, let him come back as Aquaman.
Yeah, I would say yeah, either that or I would say even Wildcat.
Like Wildcat wouldn't get a lot of screen time in that sense of like unless they do an actual JSA movie, like have him be one of the big seven.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It because that's one thing I point out in my Reacher review video is that for the third season we basically got to see a Batman versus Bane fight.
Yeah. Oh god, that guy is tall.
Yeah,
Like Reacher's tall, and then being 7'1", just towers over everyone else.
they don't call him
Like
the
you can
Dutch.
have a 6'4" Superman, a 6'3" Batman, and they still both have to look up.
Yeah, they don't call him the Dutch Giant for nothing. Let's see. So, what origin for Lex Luthor do you prefer? Growing up in Smallville or on the suicide slums in Metropolis?
Ooh, I really like the Smallville start, but it's Birthright. Superman Birthright is one of my all-time favorite books. Um, how they start out in Smallville being friends, and then when Clark moves to the big city, you have the dynamic of Lex still has that kryptonite crystal from Smallville with the S on it. And so when Superman makes his appearance and he sees that same S, he's like, okay, I know you're an alien. And he starts manipulating that against him. But like them making Clark be the one to write that Superman is an alien and him having to not only write that or lose his job creates that dynamic between him and Perry, but seeing the public affected by it as he's stopping the train and saying, the operator had a heart attack. Is there a doctor here? And he reaches his hand out and everyone jumps back and no one comes forward to help. Like he immediately sees the repercussions of being outed as an alien. It's because Lex knew from day one that, yeah, it's not from Earth. His crystal wasn't. So when the guy shows up with that same thing on his chest, okay, Mr. Alien, I see you. I'm going to out you. Like that is my favorite Lex of all time. And like yeah, Smallville Lex, the show Smallville had a similar kind of vibe where they were just almost best friends, doomed to be enemies from the beginning.
Yeah, I think I had to go with the growing up in Smallville just because it's a it's a sad twist of fate. I would say, kind of guess you could say like with Batman and Two Face.
Yeah, yeah. Like Bruce and Harvey knew each other. They were I wouldn't say friends, but at least acquaintances.
Yeah, very few adaptations have them to be friends, but yeah, it does make it harder when they're now enemies, especially with this sense of theme of duality.
Yeah, but like have Lex, even if he's from Metropolis, have him be an alien fanatic, even without having ever experienced anything about them. Like, have him be that he's always been looking for aliens, always been searching for proof of them. Like, have that same kind of fascination that he would have had he found an alien mineral in Smallville, but just locate that to Metropolis and give him the facilities and the financial backing that he's got to dive into that.
Yeah, because one thing that I see another comment from Angel of Death said the post-crisis origin of the characters never meaning to prior to Clark coming to Metropolis is still my favorite. Yeah, it is interesting, I guess, where regardless whether or not if they met as kids or teenagers, Lex still has that paranoia and fear over things he can't control.
Right? Like, whether it's his dad was the one that built the company and he just took it over, or he was the one that built it from the ground up himself. Like, he's still a control freak in that aspect of he has to have hands on in everything he's doing.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Angel Dust, too, that Clancy Brown, yeah, he's, to me, he's one of the definitive Lex Luthor voices.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I would say Michael Rosenbaum, he's probably one of the best live action versions of Lex we got so far.
And I'm excited to see Nicholas Holt have a go at it, but I really, really wanted Billy Zane to be Lex. Like, he's got the swagger of a businessman, but he's old enough that he could be a good threat if he wanted to be.
Yeah, because it's always interesting that since Jesse Eisenberg, they've done this whole thing where Lex is like around the same age as Clark or younger.
Like, I'm all down for an older Lex. Like, back in Batman v Superman, Bryan Cranston was a big fan favorite. Like, that would have been a beautiful dynamic.
Oh yeah, I would have loved it. Bryan
Or
Cranston
at
was.
least have, like, Jesse Eisenberg gets locked up and then his dad comes out of the shadows and has to take over things. And he's even more menacing. But, like, whereas his son would be the more scientific mind, he'd be the more business mind and just is more or less the mob boss kind of Lex, who is just like, oh, you mess with my family, you're a target now.
Yeah.
That could have been a really, really good dynamic.
Yeah, and I would say for besides Michael Rosenbaum and even for Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey, um, the one from Superman Lois, Michael Cudlitz, I think he did a really good job as Luthor for the last season because he was really
He did.
intense.
He really did. I got to meet him at a con here in Tennessee before the last season came out, and he said that season 4 is just a love letter to the fans. He said he enjoyed every minute of his performance as Lex and knew that everything that he did was going to be just revered by people, which it was. Like, yeah, it was a cocky thing to say at the time, probably, but he owned up to it, and it worked. He was a really, really good Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
So, like, Five Adventures with Superman, we're just now starting to see that Lex come to fruition. So, I was excited to see how they take it and run.
yeah. And Nicholas Holt does I really hope Nicholas Holt does a really good job with Lex. And heck, I mean, he may be a bit younger, but at least this way, if they're going to keep some of these actors for a good decade or so, then at least as they get older, they'll still, look like the characters without much
Absolutely.
CGI work needing done.
Right.
And yeah, I agree with the Angel of Death for Bryan Cranston. He would make a perfect Jim Gordon. I would say even now maybe.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, because who knows how the DCU's take on Batman and all of his characters going to be, but only time will tell after this movie.
Like, yeah, I feel like they're waiting to see how Superman does to fully greenlight the Batman Part 2. Whether they want to erase that and start a new Batman storyline or just throw away the DCU and go back into separate worlds. I feel like that's their key point of why it keeps on getting delayed. Is they're gonna wait to see which route on Batman they want to go.
I really hope they don't pull the plug on it because I am curious to see what they're gonna do with that take on Batman.
Like they set the story or set the stage for the next story really, really well. So like Gotham's flooded. What does water do? It freezes. So that'd be a really good villain to bring in.
Yeah, yeah, Freeze. It would be great to see a more accurate take on Freeze.
Right. And like now that Gotham's flooded, like yeah, crime's gonna soar. All the banks that were in that region are gonna be vulnerable and criminals are just gonna have a field day with looting and robberies and everything else as chaos descends into it. So
Mm.
it'll almost be like the Arkham City games where they just kind of gave part of Arkham to the villains, but in that live action take.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much like I think it was called No Man's Land.
Yeah. It's like I think or I hope that and my adventures kind of like how in the '90s animated series they gave Batman just a tease of a cameo at first. Like if we can get that and just see like their animated universe's Batman, that'd be really really cool to see. And whether or not that translates to live action or not, who knows? But like we're getting a My Adventures with Green Lantern, so why not tie that in with the rest of the heroes of that world?
Yeah, though given the style of the at least for the logo, that might be connected to My Adventures of Superman.
Like that'd be really really cool.
Oh, okay. So I guess the delay is nothing to do with James Gunn. I guess Matt Reeves has some personal issues going on at the moment.
Like I've heard that they haven't even finalized the script yet.
Mm.
Like whatever that is.
Yeah, it is, and it sucks the fact that Gunn is not incorporating that take on Batman into DCU, but I think it could. I think it could work, but
They're trying to incorporate it and they're trying to go into a whole new direction.
yeah, no. I mean, given what I think what the movies are playing, like we're gonna be seeing probably like a somewhat older Batman with Damian Wayne Robin. I think that's one of the movies that's being in the planning stages.
Right? Like they said that the time frame will just kind of jump throughout the storytelling to where it's at in that line of history. So the Brave and the Bold may just be set in the future
Yeah,
and
probably.
maybe be a more Bat family centered movie. Or, it could very well be that we've got an older Batman with a younger Superman, or they're just the same age and that's just a future take on it.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, with Superman, he doesn't really visibly age as much. You still there?
Yes.
Oh,
Grab my water. Sorry.
no worries. And still, heck, if we can have two different versions of Batman, why not?
I can That's my whole thing. Is like you wanted going forward. James said that they want to stick to one character across movies, comics, games, all of it. But like My Adventures with Superman is already greenlit for seasons 3, and did it also get a season 4?
I'm not sure about season 4, but I know season 3 at least, so we'll see what happens.
Like I was
Yeah.
surprised we got that.
Okay, so looks like we got confirmation that James Gunn is not going with the DC approach of an older Batman. So he won't be middle aged.
Interesting.
I
Like
guess,
age him around Clark.
yeah, I could say like he could probably be in his mid 30s and discover that he has a son.
Like, Bruce Wayne's promiscuous years, he could be late 20s and have an 8 or 9 year old.
Yeah, true. We'll see, especially how they go about with bringing in Damien anyway.
Yep. Like, I could absolutely see, like, very late teens, early 20s Bruce getting tangled up with Talia somehow, some way, and that coming to fruition.
Exactly. Yeah.
And him just not ever knowing about it until he's 9 or 10 and shows up on his doorstep with a sword killing people.
Yeah, pretty much. That might just be how the movie plot will go. Though I am more curious to see how the Lantern show will be, because I think that's coming out next year as well.
Like, there's a lot of Lantern storylines and Lantern villains that can be an all universe threat, whether it be Blackest Night or the Sinestro Corps War or a few different ones. Of just there's a lot of different ways they could go on making the villains in that story. But like if they choose to go Blackest Night, that would just be insanity. Like I wouldn't see it being just if they go multiple seasons, that would absolutely play into a bigger theme of setting up for a big universe movie down the road.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it might be too soon for Blackest Night, but definitely for whatever chapters or phases James has in mind.
Like
This,
even just having Black Hand be a villain that actually like season one could end with Black Hand getting his black ring.
yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, because we got all kinds of lantern colors that they can explore.
Oh yeah, like oh, speaking of animated shows, the Green Lantern animated show that was so underrated. That was better than it deserved to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I wasn't exactly crazy about the CGI look, but I did like the story, the characters, everything they're building upon with seeing like with the red lanterns, the star sapphires, even the blue lanterns. I like the whole monk style.
Like Hal's off world long enough that he comes back and Guy Gardner's already just taken his place and no one told him. It's a really good dynamic between everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to bring in so many different human Green Lanterns.
And just promote Hal to their elite force that deals with deep space threats. Like absolutely.
Makes sense. Now let's see. What would you say is the best looking design that you've seen in Metropolis outside the comics?
Oh, I would definitely say the animated series from the '90s. Like have the high tech, artsy city look to it, but like you need the high speed monorails. You need it, having all that stuff provides more that could go wrong in that sense. It allows train saves for Superman to have, and it allows you know the super techy military defense systems that Lex tests, all that. Like have it set to where we don't know exactly where they're at technologically. It's just beyond here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree because the '90s definitely has that aspect with the designs of the city and everything. And I think one of the producers said it was like ocean, like very ocean themed. I think were some of the design of the buildings like ocean Art Deco or something, or I forgot what the phrase was.
That's a good term for it. That makes sense. Yeah. Um, but yeah, because like you can set it in a place that just looks like Chicago, but then watching it, you're just like, this just looks like Chicago.
Yeah, which is funny since Gotham Metropolis are I feel like they are based in like in New York, the state.
like Superman the movie, it was absolutely just New York. But yeah, it's got to have that. It's like the city of the future. It's got to have that futuristic feel to it.
Yeah, yeah, because even for what takes place for a modern time, it still is like such a huge city where like you imagine it'd be like the cities you would see like in those movies.
Yes, like it can't just be like any city in the world can be just a big city with a bunch of people, but like Metropolis, like is almost its own character in the storytelling. It's where people go to dream of the future, to be a part of the future, to help bring that future to life. That's how I've always seen it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way. It's probably the best way to describe the city.
Like yeah, if it doesn't have its own personality, then it's just another city. Where it's like it's not special because Superman is there. Superman is there because it's special.
Exactly. Let's see. And yeah, the Super Pets movie, they had a pretty good design Metropolis too. It definitely has that giant
Yeah,
scope with the tall buildings and everything.
like sunny, bright, like very Art Deco. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, now I remember Ocean Liner. I think it was like Ocean Liner Deco, I think, or something. Just because like I think for at least the '90s of how like it was like right there by like the coast and everything. I think that was it. But yeah, it's always interesting how they portray the city when they really want to give a character, not just base it off any random series.
like it's also got to be a fair distance from Gotham.
Yeah.
Like it can't just be across the bay. It's got to be like New York to Chicago, not New York to New Jersey.
Yep. Yep. And it looks like for Sinestro is going to be in the Lantern show, so we might see a little something of a Sinestro Corps build up, maybe.
Like at least in flashbacks. Like you can't tell the story of Hal with John already here without telling about Sinestro.
Yep. No, I mean, because I like the fact that we're getting Hal and John involved, and also Guy Gardner.
Like yeah, I just heard that guy is going to be in the show itself.
Yep. Hopefully with a better haircut.
Don't get your hopes up.
I mean, I think I'll probably get used to it once I see the movie.
I, I'll never get used to it. It's just it's a choice they made.
Yeah. I mean,
Like he should have been more of a redhead.
yeah, or at least I don't know. Like, I mean, I get that they're going with the very classic style of the look back then, but come on.
Yeah,
Let's see. How do you feel about getting a 60-year-old Hal Jordan? I'm not against an older Hal, but 60 gives the impression he won't make it past the first season. Oh,
I hope not. I really hope not. I hope that he gets to keep going and expand on that. Like
yeah,
Hal is just the one person that you can't keep down. Like no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he keeps getting back up. Like he'll keep fighting until he's gone. He can be the young cocky pilot, or he can be the old aged veteran of the Lantern Corps, but he's still that guy.
yeah. I mean, I'd be fine like if Hal just like retires, but he still like helps
Yeah,
out now and then. And that I like the fact nice touch on the ring, yeah, because you've done also Green Lantern cosplays as well, right?
correct. I've got my lantern shelf right up here next to all my super stuff. But yeah, he is arguably my favorite character. My dad was in the Air Force, so growing up, I just kind of took into that beat. And my dad was an aircraft mechanic. He didn't fly the planes, so luckily he didn't die in a horrible plane crash in them. But So reading the Lantern comics and seeing how it grew up around Air Force bases, it hit a lot closer to home. I love the character. I love lanterns so much, and just the mythology of their stories, what they can do, the fact that you can make anything you can imagine, whether you need to catapult someone or hit them with a giant hammer, you can do that.
Yeah, their powers are very creative and like and crazy. Like there's so much you can do with them, and based on whatever emotions you have, it's just
And especially when you start playing the different emotions with each other, of you pair a blue lantern with them and it supercharges them, or you pair them with orange or red or yellow, and you get a whole different dynamic starting to come out.
hmm
Like we're like they're possible to work with, but you're going to be pulling teeth and hair the whole time. Yeah,
yeah. It's just amazing what some of these writers can do with these characters.
like in my mind, the lantern mythos can be its own Star Wars universe in terms of the scope of it.
Yes.
But it being part of a larger DC universe makes it complicated to tell those stories without them rippling into everything else.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
yeah, I want a Deep Space Lantern series so bad, so bad.
Yeah. I mean, so far it looks like the series it might be more set on Earth, but I imagine if this becomes a big hit, then we'll get to that deep space side of things.
It's like you can't get one without starting with the other. I get that, but like, and it's also like that'll be most of their budget is just CGI.
Yeah, that's true. Though I'm curious to see what their costumes are going to look like if at least well if they'll get the costumes.
Like, I have a feeling we'll see them in just civilian clothes for most of it, and then the flashback scenes are going to be when they're in costume with Sinestro.
Yeah, probably.
Like, we might get to see Hal and Sinestro locking up Atrocitus as his first big bust, and you get to see Sinestro kind of doing dirty cop stuff to get to that end point.
Yeah. No, I could that would definitely work for like an episode or at least a flashback or something. Yeah, so that could work as Hal. Yeah, I could actually see that as Hal tries to mentor John and tries to make sure he doesn't follow the same footsteps as Sinestro.
Yep. Whereas, like, John's a pretty clean cut guy. Like, I wouldn't worry about him falling to it, but definitely Hal being more aged, he'd be more willing to let certain things slide. And so I feel like you get, whereas Hal didn't have enough pull to get Sinestro from doing those things, John will be able to pull Hal back if he starts to.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see for how like he might have some difficulties, but I guess it's a good thing that he has someone like John just to keep him steady.
Yes. But yeah,
And
arguably my lantern shelf is soon, someday, maybe going to be as big as the super shelves.
I'm sure you have a whole big collection of new lantern stuff soon.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that I'm excited about is all the new merch coming out. I love it.
Should be quite a hit. But I would say that's probably going to be our time for today. I want to thank you again, Taylor, for being a part of this stream.
Thank you for having me. It was a good talk.
I want to say thank you for any of you viewers that stay on to this. And yes, Angel Death, you are correct. Correct. Super to Cosplay does have a bit of a cold.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
thank
a
you.
bit stuck at the moment. Sorry, but working on it.
Yeah, not a problem. I thank you for still committing to the show despite with the sickness. Hopefully you get better soon. And hopefully by this week or hopefully by the end of this month, we'll get to see more Superman content for the new movie. And hopefully we get a new season of My Adventures with Superman. That'll be even a bigger hit because so far they've been trying to do one, I think, every year. So we'll see.
This is definitely Superman's year.
Definitely. So I'll catch you all you guys later and have a good night.